Hey, Dr. Jon Finn here. Welcome to the Habit Mechanic podcast. Right now, you can get my new best-selling book, Train Your Brain for the AI Revolution, at tougherminds.co.uk. The digital book, audiobook, and physical book are all available at a special price that you won't find anywhere else.
This is the Tougher Minds podcast. I'm Andrew Whitelam. I'm joined by Tougher Minds founder, Dr. Jon Finn. Thanks for listening. In this episode, we're talking about exercise and activity and its importance in everyone's life and work. Jon, what's your overall perspective on exercise and activity for people and its importance for them?
Well, we always have to think about what are we designed to do. We've been evolving for over 200,000 years. So what we're designed to do, it turns out, according to anthropologists, we're designed to move around and solve problems. How far are we designed to move every day? Well, I think about 12 miles.
Wow. That's a shock for many.
So that's what we are designed to do. And unfortunately, we currently spend more time than ever before in a sedentary position, sitting. We drive as close as we can and park as close as we can. We take the lift or the elevator instead of the stairs. So that's a problem. What we are, and very famous physical activity scientists will tell you that if you sit too long, it kills you. We're not designed to be sitting.
Yeah, I've heard sitting recently described as the new smoking.
Yeah, it's dangerous for our health. So we're designed to move around and solve problems. We think about 12 miles per day. Yeah, we spend more of our time than ever before sitting. And a big part of that is the sort of work that we do now. Certainly, the city that I live in, the places where there used to be factories, they're now all office blocks. So people would have gone in there 20, 30 years ago to do a very physical job. And now they go in there and they sit most of the day. So we've got a problem. And we're seeing that in the UK. We've got an obesity epidemic, knock-on effect to type 2 diabetes epidemic. So we have a problem in this area, but it's not just about physical problems. If we're not exercising properly, our brain doesn't work properly. And that's essentially what we're interested in at Tougher Minds, because that's where everything starts.
And why is that?
So the right amount of physical activity is connected to healthy brain function. One of the things that very clever molecular scientists, biologists have discovered is a protein called BDNF. So when you move around, this protein called BDNF is released in your brain. They would describe that protein as allowing you to be potentially cleverer. Because remember, we're designed to move around and solve problems. So when we're moving around, our brain is releasing this really clever protein that makes it easier for us to be cleverer, for our brain to wire faster. So that's one reason. Connected to that is a fundamental part of our brain for learning and managing stress well is called the hippocampus or the hippocampi, because there's one in each hemisphere. The reason that part of the brain is so important is because it's the only part of the human brain we understand that produces new brain cells. So if you want to learn new skills for work, new skills for being healthy, happy and at your best, if you want to be innovative and creative and learn from your mistakes and keep doing all that stuff that helps you and your organisation to succeed and thrive in a very challenging world, then obviously learning is very important. Equally, if you want to manage stress, new brain cells are absolutely essential. So when we're not exercising properly, we're getting reduced function of areas of the brain like the hippocampi. So it's making our life more difficult.
Well, that's an interesting and very compelling reason, I'm sure, for people to do more exercise. You mentioned, we'll just dwell briefly, you mentioned the chemical released when people move and walk around, BDNF. What does that stand for? Is that an abbreviation? Just if people maybe wanted to do a bit more research online, what is BDNF in greater detail?
BDNF stands for brain-derived neurotrophic factor.
Right. And what does that do for us, John? Just summarise again its effects and its benefits.
So it's a protein that's connected to helping your brain learn faster, so helping that neuroplasticity process and making learning more efficient and effective, in summary.
And that's the chemical released when we move. So that's a fascinating insight already. This is the Tougher Minds podcast. Thanks for listening to us. We hope the insights we're sharing with you are helpful for you in your life and in your work. Don't forget, if you want to, you can send us your questions. Email them to us at contact@tougherminds.co.uk, contact@tougherminds.co.uk if you have any specific questions or further questions or questions on this or previous podcasts. So, John, we understand then from your insight that the process of exercising or being active or moving has this neurobiological benefit, as you would see. And why is that important for us?
Well, we need to be efficient and effective when we're at work, when we're doing other things in our lives. So we can't just go through the motions. And the way that we think about people's, we call them activation levels throughout the day, is that your brain broadly has 3 states. So you think of the brain a little bit like a battery. One state is recharge, so that includes sleep and non-sleep activities. So part of any 24-hour period you're going to spend recharging your brain. The second state is what we call medium charge. So this is where you are, alert enough, activated enough to do quite remedial, habit-based tasks, so stuff that's very familiar to you, maybe like replying to emails, doing filing, even standing up and giving a talk if it's very familiar to you. So we spend some of our 24-hour period in that brain state, and that type of work is increasingly becoming automated via artificial intelligence and machine learning. And the final brain state we call high charge. This is the brain state, the type of activation that we need to do really clever work, innovative work, creative work, the kind of tasks that you haven't done before, where you're learning to do it for the first time. And these types of tasks are increasingly what human beings have been valued for, because we can't automate them. And we're not very good at getting machines or artificial intelligence to do these types of tasks. So at work, we need to be able to have the kind of brain states that allow us to do high charge work. And exercise is an absolutely essential ingredient to allow us to do that. So there are multiple things I do every day to give myself the best chance of achieving that type of brain state. But some of the big important things are connected to exercise. So
I was going to say, you started by saying we're interested in exercise, not because it gives us a six-pack, because of how it affects our brain. That's what Tougher Minds is about.
How it affects our brain, and therefore efficiency and effectiveness and creativity and innovation, and all this stuff that we're super interested in helping our businesses to succeed and thrive in what is a very challenging world. So the first thing I do when I get up every morning, literally, is I put my running things on wherever I am in the world, and I go for a run for maybe 20, 25 minutes. And I do that not because it really excites me and I find it really good to do in the moment. I do it.
You're not an aspiring Mo Farah?
No, I do it because I know that after it, I will feel better and my brain will be in a better position to do some clever work, the kind of work that I need to do to help my clients and my organisation to keep moving forwards. And then what I would do periodically throughout the day is other bouts of exercise, anything from just getting up from the desk, and walking, maybe not to the cafeteria that's in our building, maybe walking, a few blocks away to the coffee shop that then allows me to accumulate maybe 10, 15 minutes of exercise. So when I get back to my desk, I'm ready to go again. I'll do the same at lunchtime. I might do the same. I might use exercising after my evening meal to help me to unwind and relax and reflect on the day. So we are designed to move around and solve problems. Solving problems is one of the biggest. Well, solving problems in a really efficient and effective manner is one of the biggest things that are going to help any business to be successful in the VUCA world that we live in. So we've got to use this to help our people to harness their brains and to do that creative and innovative work that's going to make your company beat the competition.
This is the Tougher Minds podcast. Thanks for listening to us. Please do, if you have the opportunity, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or whichever platform you get your podcasts from. A 5-star review would, of course, be greatly appreciated, but please do rate and review us if you have the opportunity. And thanks for listening once again to the Tougher Minds podcast. Jon, what types of exercise? You talked about your interest in running or your habit of running, and also the effort you make to walk and take steps. What are there specific types of exercise that are more beneficial than others for our brain state and for this state of mental activation that you talked about?
Yeah, well, all exercise has an impact on brain function, and there are good studies looking into this. And for example, what I might describe as weightlifting, but
going to the gym, maybe.
Going to the gym, sort of strength and conditioning type exercises that seem to be beneficial for insight. And probably because insight actually happens counterintuitively, not when you're trying to consciously solve a problem, but when you've actually switched away from that problem consciously, your brain's still working it out. You know, the eureka moment, when the answer to the problem emerges, that's because you've switched off away from it. But we know that the dominant exercise we're designed to do is to walk, maybe a little bit of running, up to 12 miles a day. So that's the type of exercise that is releasing BDNF. You know, connected to the eureka moment, how often have people experienced going for a run, cycling into work,
or just walking contemplatively,
work,
I suppose, yeah.
And having a problem that you couldn't resolve, and then all of a sudden, 10 minutes after you've stopped, you sit down, the answer emerges into your mind. That's because of how your brain works, and exercise is speeding up the process. So, you know, accumulating steps is what we really encourage people to do. You don't have to go to the gym. We're very fancy. We have a walk-in treadmill, a workstation treadmill. So essentially a standing desk that has a treadmill attached to it.
Wow.
Which is high-tech technology, because we really value the importance of exercise. A step down from that, we see increasingly our clients have standing desks, standing workstations. Some of that's for postural things, but you know, people also get the increased activation of standing and the increased importance of that. But you don't have to have those devices. You just get out around the block. If you live in a rainy country like the UK, buy an umbrella. Whatever you need to do, buy some waterproofs. But just building that habit of getting up and moving around is probably the most important thing we can do, and probably the easiest one to do. Actually, it doesn't take any equipment. You don't need any special clothing to do it. Maybe take a spare pair of shoes if you have to dress up when you go to work. But yeah. So it's really I'd encourage people to accumulate more steps during the day.
And you just talked about the working context then. So you would advise someone, perhaps if they worked in a city of London or in a large office block or something, to maybe, if possible, break up their bouts of work with just a very short period of walking or walking to get your lunch, or breaking up maybe writing a report with walking around. Is that right?
Yeah, we get sucked into the trap of presenteeism. But I'd encourage you to think more about how efficient and effective are you being when you're doing any bout of work. Just being present isn't the whole part of doing it well. And sometimes you're going to have a more effective hour if you spend 10 minutes of that hour moving around. as you say, we talk about walking breaks, just going round and walking round the perimeter of the building inside if you need to, around the floors, taking the stairs instead of taking the lift or the elevator. Now we're moving into an era where more people than ever are working from home. Some companies are even starting not to have central offices anymore, and they're encouraging people to and compensating them for working at home. So again, people might be very nervous and anxious that they've got to be sat there, for 8 hours solid doing work. But is that the most efficient and effective way for you to spend your time at home? I know I work from home sometimes, and so do colleagues, and we encourage everyone that they should be trying to do a bout of exercise before they even start work, like you would if you were going to work. I encourage people to almost to have several offices when they're working from home. One is at home, but find a couple of coffee shops as well around and about that you can use. And
so you might walk to your second office in inverted commas.
Yeah. So personally, I would after maybe going for my run, maybe doing 3 hours of work in the office, I'd then get up and I'd maybe walk 15 minutes to a coffee shop that I can work from, have my classical music headphone on my classical music that I can plug into, have a clear plan of what I'm going to do when I get there to minimise distractions. Probably be seen by very miserable by other people who are maybe trying to be more sociable in a coffee shop, and then
I suppose people work in coffee shops now. It's more common, so you're not quite as eccentric as you might think.
It's becoming more common for sure.
Yeah.
And then then maybe going back to the home office, and then maybe finding somewhere else in the afternoon. So really encouraging people to plan to do exercise during the day, and ultimately make that a habit. So that's what I would encourage people to do, not just when we're in the office, but also when we're working from home as well, or working on the road. Think about bouts of work and making those bouts of work as efficient and effective as possible. And a great way to spark not just BDF in your brain, but also things like dopamine, which is essential for being efficient and effective. Dopamine we often associate with the reward neurotransmitter, but it's also your brain's save button. So you need it if you're going to be learning and being clever. Exercise also releases noradrenaline, which is also really important for learning well and for being clever. So by doing a bout of exercise before you do clever work, you're priming your brain to be ready, to be really efficient and effective, ultimately making it easier for you to be creative and innovative, and giving yourself and your organisation the best chance of being one step ahead of the competition.
So two things I'm going to ask you about in a moment related to that. But I just want to say that this is the Tougher Minds podcast. And if you want more resources to help you in your life and your work around things like how exercise can help you perform better mentally, then go to tougherminds.co.uk. That's our website, tougherminds.co.uk. There are plenty of resources and downloads available. You'll find them on the homepage in the first instance, and some interesting interactive activities as well. tougherminds.co.uk. Do check out our website. John, what I was going to ask you about then, just what you said then, how exercise can improve the brain state and almost prime you to be clever and effective mentally. Perhaps then you might suggest if a senior leader was going to have to give a presentation to some non-executive directors about some commercial performance or some aspects of a company like that, and then have to field perhaps searching and detailed questions on it. Are you saying then the best thing to do would be to obviously do your preparation as you would do and all the empirical stuff and the reports, but perhaps get set up and then go for a walk and come back in ready for the meeting?
Yeah, that would be one tactic you could use. Knowing and having written books about performing under pressure, probably more complex than that. But yeah, it's certainly a tool you can use in your armoury to prepare yourself for anything that you want to do. Depending how, what I might say in simple language, is pumped up you want to be for that type of presentation would depend on what exercise you might want to do. Maybe you want to do a few sit-ups and a few press-ups before, if that's your thing. If you want to calm,
get a boxing trainer in to hit some pads.
Or if you want to calm yourself down, maybe as you're walking along, you focus on your breathing. So I'm going to be focusing on breathing in for 5 seconds and out for 5 seconds. But whatever you need to do, Are you a Tiger Woods? Do you need to be pumped up, or are you an Ernie Els where you need to be more calm and more relaxed to perform to your potential? But yeah, it's good insight.
That's one for the golfers listening out there. I think Tiger Woods was renowned for being a bit more aggressive in his demeanour, and Ernie Els, I think his nickname was the Big Easy. He was a bit more subdued in his demeanour. So yeah, that's interesting. Obviously, golf are very cerebral and mental activity just as much as it is a physical one. We talked about then including this idea of activity, not just intervals during the working day, but by extension within work itself. And in your work with all sorts of organisations in the UK and the US, I understand you've actually worked with them and that they have implemented this, where people are encouraged to implement this idea of constant exercise and activity through the working day, and they've seen the benefits.
Yeah, it's coupled with people changing their internal workspaces, which is increasingly happening, especially our experience of the City of London. Literally people are transforming what their offices look like. So they're introducing things like standing desks, etc. But it's often very, very simple things. The saying of what got you here last year won't get you there next year is all about time, and nobody's making any more time in the day. It's 24 hours, it's fixed, right? So therefore, what people default to is how can I cram as much as possible in, and anytime I leave my desk, I am bleeding minutes. I think that's the wrong way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Whenever you're sitting at your desk and your brain is not primed to be clever and effective, you are losing minutes. So people in the companies we're working with are starting, not just know, but try out the ideas of and see the benefit of just getting away from their desk at lunchtime, even if it's for 15 minutes, just to get around the block. And just noticing that when they do come back, they do feel better and they are able to be more efficient and effective. And it sounds ever so simple, doesn't it, the idea of taking a walking break. But we do what we are in the habit of doing. And it's one thing knowing what you need to do, it's another thing making it into a habit. So many stories from people of just doing tiny things differently, from 5 minutes extra all the way through to going to the gym at lunchtime or something like that, but seeing huge benefits, having standing meetings, that kind of stuff. And I think what's very compelling to people who work in a cerebral job, who are typically very educated, and they want to know, but why? Why do I need to do this? So when you can start to explain the brain science that sits behind it, and the idea that this does increase brain function, that in our experience, it's easier to compel colleagues to actually make these small changes that ultimately stack up to big benefits for the organisation and also themselves. In their own lives, it's easier for them to be healthier, happier, and at their best more often.
I mean, obviously, you've guided organisations and people, as you say, in this way, and they've implemented it, and it's been very successful for them. But is your sense that there is and I think you've probably answered this, but there's a change in culture now that whereas if you've got up and just left your desk in the middle of the day, you might have attracted strange looks from managers and colleagues, but now people realise the benefits of this. They realise what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, so a term we used to use a lot was personal brain management, and we want to empower people to be able to manage themselves, optimise their own performance. And increasingly good leaders are recognising that. It's not about standing over someone's shoulder. It's about empowering them with the right skills and the right knowledge to be able to build the kind of habits that allow them to deliver the results. So here's the information, guys. You use it and we'll judge you on your results. So if you want to be getting away from your desk, you do that. As long as you deliver the results, fantastic. So I think it's a win-win all round for everybody, because people on the ground feel more empowered. They feel that their organisation cares about them, which makes brains work better as well, and ultimately the organisation get the results that they're looking for.
Well, we're drawing to a close on this episode of the Tougher Minds podcast, and we do appreciate listening to us. We hope the insights that we share are helpful for you in your life and work. Just wanted to touch on one more thing, John. Obviously now we have the predominance in of society of the smartphone, and anyone who has an iPhone will see Apple has its own native app, the health app, and there are all the wrist devices, the fitness trackers. That seems then to be almost a ready-made support system for exercise. People might be able to tap into to help to trigger them taking more exercise and being more active more often.
Yeah, so this smart watch technology, smartphone technology is very powerful, and we run on reminders. We run on being reminded what to do, and actually there are several. We have our 9 change factor model, which there are 9.
That's a proprietary Tougher Minds model.
Yeah. Showing the 9 core things that make us do what we do, and 2 of those big areas is personal motivation. Well, why do I want to do more exercise? What's in it for me? It could be a weight loss thing. It could equally be it's a faster route to promotion, to a bigger salary, to getting into that bigger house so the kids can have a bedroom each, whatever it is. But we've got to ultimately connect to that big goal, small behaviours. Small behaviours like walking an extra 2,000 steps per day. And what the tracking technology allows us to do is to be more accurate in understanding and self-watching, watching our own behaviour, being aware, not just thinking, oh, well, I did a bit more exercise today than yesterday. Now we can track it. But what I would say about that is that beware of what we call the licensing effect.
Right, what's
because
that?
We've seen, if you're going to track your exercise, and in particular your calories, you also need to be more expert about the type of calories that you're consuming. And we're seeing lots of people underestimating how many calories they're consuming. So people thinking, okay, well, I've walked to this coffee shop that's a bit further away for my morning break. So now actually I can have that double chocolate chip muffin. Fantastic. But what people are not recognising is that the walk they did only burned 100 calories, and there are 450 calories in the chocolate chip muffin.
Yeah.
So they're starting to gain weight. So if you're using your tracking devices to think of your exercise like that, then beware. And you can buy other apps that make it easy to track calorie count. But as well as steps, and actually connected to steps, let's think about this, is that running's not for everyone, doing a marathon's not for everyone,
Certainly
going to the gym's not for everyone. We all walk every day.
Yeah.
So often if I said to people, well, out of 10, how much exercise did you do yesterday? 10 being the best. They say, well, 0. But people forget that, or misunderstand that walking is counted, as exercise, and it's the thing that we typically do most of every day. Even if we drove right up to the front of the office this morning, we still had to get out of the car and walk somewhere. And what the science is very clearly showing is that when you just walk a little bit faster, the exercise benefits really shoot up.
Right.
So walking faster, perspiring, ideally, or sweating is good. So when you're walking to that coffee shop, walk faster. It's an easier way to get...
Just on the flat, doesn't have to be uphill or anything.
Just to get an even bigger benefit. So walk faster. And often the trackers will tell you, they'll measure exercise. In the Apple Watch, it's the green ring. They'll measure exercise by how quickly your heart is beating. So it's just about increasing intensity, which increases heart rate. So when you're doing your walking breaks, getting up to go speak to someone instead of sending them an email, getting out to lunch, walking around the block at lunchtime, going for a walk after evening meal, think about not just the walk, but actually, am I doing a slow walk here? So maybe after the evening meal, you want to do a slow walk because you're calming everything down. But maybe at lunchtime, you want to do a faster walk because you want to get back to the desk and really hit it hard after lunch.
To energise yourself.
Yeah, that kind of thing. And the other type of exercise that we know is really important is doing some what we would call in sports science strength and conditioning training, which might be, you know, mowing the lawn at the weekend, or you carry the shopping home instead of getting someone else to do it. But just working out those muscles. You might just be doing, you know, 10 press-ups and 10 sit-ups every day. We know that's important for overall health and brain health as well. So it's something to build in. And, you know, the NHS have really good guidelines about all this stuff on their website. So often, well, from an NHS perspective, they show age-specific optimal exercise levels to be doing as well. So I'd really recommend that you check out that resource.
Well, Jon, thanks so much again. That's a fantastic, again, practical, applicable overview of how you can use exercise beneficially for your life and work, for your mental performance, for your brain state, and for your effectiveness. Thanks very much for listening once again to the Tougher Minds podcast. We think it's a great idea if you share these insights with people. Perhaps you can find a friend, a colleague, or a partner and discuss them and work together to implement some of them in your life and your work. This has been the Tougher Minds podcast. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Habit Mechanic podcast. If you liked it, please subscribe and tell someone else about one of the ideas or insights that you found most interesting.